Hi, Michelle Stewart-McKoy here with a follow-up on the session that we recently concluded, that of using comics in the higher education classroom. And in particular, we looked at the Pixton app. Now, today, we are going to continue by looking, still using the Pixton, but we're looking at the add-in that comes in PowerPoint. Now, just to remind us that the add-in in PowerPoint has fewer features. You do not have to sign up. You do not have to pay to use it, but it does not have as many features as the website does. And so today in the session that we had earlier, we looked at the different elements of a comic, and we use the Pixton web page to create our own comics. We used it to fill in the different panels so that we had an entire comic strip. And then we went through the stages of saving it, printing, and sharing. For this particular session, we're going to be looking at how to create a comic strip using the Pixton add-in in PowerPoint and how to save it so that we can share it with our students. It will be shared as a PDF file. So let us start by opening PowerPoint. And because we're using PowerPoint, there are two things that I needed to point out to you. All right, so my PowerPoint is coming up. There we go, it's opening. And so there are two things that I needed to point out to you. All right, the first thing is that I am using the 365. You can use any one of the versions. You will still be able to create your comics using the add-in. The second thing is that I am using my personal account. One of the reasons that I'm using my personal account is that if you're using the Mona 365 license, you are blocked from making any kind of additions via the store, which is where your add-ins are housed. And you can understand the basic reason why that is done. So what I did was that I logged out of my Mona and I logged into my personal account. You have to have a Live or a Hotmail account to do so. All right, so I just needed to get that out of the way. So I'm going to start a blank presentation. And so my presentation has come up. I'm closing the designer and I'm going up to slide layout to select blank to ensure that I have my blank slide. Now, if I don't have my add-in as yet, I will need to have it in my PowerPoint so that I can easily access it. If you don't have it as yet, you'll do in the 365 version, you'll go up to File and you'll scroll down to Get Add-in. When you click on that, the Office add-in page will come up and you can scroll through using the different categories, or you can do a quick search. Now, because we know what we're looking for, I'm doing a quick search and then I'm going to click on search and it comes up here. If I click add, the disclaimer message will come up, so you can click to read the license terms and the privacy policy. And when you have done so, you click I agree. Now, I already have gone through these steps. I already have the add-in. I am just taking you through the process of how you would get it if you didn't have it on your system. So when you click continue, what will happen is that the Pixton window will open to the extreme right of your slide. And if you close it, you can easily retrieve it by going to add-in or by clicking on the Pixton icon here. If I click on add-ins, which is shown here, you will see your Pixton and you can click on it. It will open again. All right, so I'm just going to close this while we talk a little bit about our comic. We have already done the planning. So I have already decided that this is what I want my comic to look like. I am using this particular one as an activity sheet, and I have gotten my backgrounds because the add-in does not allow us to, well, it doesn't have background images and so forth. So I have already done my search and I have my folder with my files. So let us begin. I have to draw my panels because we know that the content is in panels. So I'll go to shape. If you don't see it here, you can simply go across to insert and scroll down to shape and click on it. So I'm just going to draw a couple of shapes. I'm copying and pasting. So I'm just drawing a couple of shapes that I will use. These are my panels, and this is where the information will be put. So there I have it. And then of course, I could just select everything and make them a little bigger and a little wider because I have the space. Now, because all comics have what we know are gutters, I am just resizing to ensure that my gutter, that is the space between the panels, that is shown. All right. So I'm just putting a little space between my comics so my gutter is evident. All right. And then I can move this down a little bit. The other thing that I want to do, I don't want it to look so uniform. So I will just simply click on each shape, go across to shape format, select edit shape, and it is not changing my shape. Let's do that again. So edit shape and click on edit points. And when I click on edit points, you'll see these little black points. I can actually do my adjustment. So just, I don't want it to be very evident. I just want to make a slight change. And so I'll do that for all of them, just so that it doesn't look like uniformed boxes. I'm just making a little adjustment to each of them so that when I'm finished, it will have that look. Maybe for this one, I'll bring both sides in. There we go. And then for the last one, I'll just make a little thing like that. All right. So it's beginning to look a little bit quirky, you know, a little bit quirky as how a comic strip might look. I'm just gonna adjust the shape as well. So we went to format shape, click on the shape and select edit points. The next thing is that I have my background images that I want to go into my panels. So I'm going to click on each and I'm going to go to shape fill. Now I could easily put a color in, but because I have an image, I'm going to go scroll down to image and I'm going to click from a file because I had downloaded mine. And so I look for my shape. So that's what I want for my first slide. And then for the others, I am going to do the same thing. I go to from file. Now, of course, you could select from online or from stock images, but because I had downloaded my images, I am using that. And I do not have to go one by one. I can just simply select all the boxes, go to shape fill, scroll down to pictures, go to from my file. It will open my window. I click on that and all of them will come in at the same time. Isn't that beautiful? So now that I have done that, I can now go to my Pixton app. And my Pixton app will have my different characters in. I am using this first slide as my introductory slide. This is what will have the name of the comic strip as well as any kind of instructions if I need to have instructions on the name of the creator. So I'm just going to insert some text here. So let me go to shapes, go to the text box, and I am calling this because I have taught a lesson on game-based learning and gamification. So I am looking at the Bartle Gamer Profiles, which is my education course. And so I'm calling this May the 4 be with you. And then to give a clear explanation, this is looking at Bartle Gamer Profiles. All right. Now that I have done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the font, something that looks a little more appealing. I'm going to change the font and I'm going to change the background. So I go back to Shape Fill and I select No Fill and I will select No Outline. And so I go home, I go to where the fonts are, and I am looking for fonts. So I have a number of fonts here. I am just looking for one that I can use. And the comic strip is a nice one. I'll make it bigger. All right. And I probably don't want Bartle to be in that. So I'll change Bartle to something that's a little bit simpler and a little smaller. All right. So may the 4, sorry, be with you. And then I may want to change the color that makes it a little easier to see. I'll probably go across to something. There we go. That doesn't look bad. And probably change this to black. All right. And then I am going to put who created this comic strip. So I'm going to put by, and I put my name, Michelle Stewart-McKoy. And I'm making it a little smaller because I don't want that to be the biggest thing on the screen. All right. So there I have it, May the 4 be with you. And one of the things that I tend to do is in order to get a better idea of what it would look like when I'm finished, I tend to go to slideshow and take a look at it. So that doesn't look too badly. So I can work with it. All right, I may need to adjust the colors a little bit, but for now I can work with this as it looks. I'll probably change this to white and move it down a little bit. There we go. Now I am going to go to my Pixton add-in. So I go to add-in and I click on Pixton. And then I click on get started. Now, if you have been using it before, you could quickly jump across to recent. But if you're just going to be using it, you would have to pick a type, pick a color, and so forth. So let us pick type. So we want a young man, and we pick his color, and we pick his hairstyle. All right. And then this takes us to his outfit. So I'll probably get something like that. And finally, his pose. So if you were at the workshop today, you would have realized that the features that the add-in has really are just minimal features. All right. So I am looking for a pose. All right. So maybe the person drinking a cup of tea at the, yes, here we go. All right, so there he is, and then I would resize him. So I'm going to be putting him here. Now I could use the entire size of the image, or I could crop him so that I have the focus that we looked at today on the website. So I'm cropping him so we have the focus, and then I'm just going to rotate him so that he is flipped and his hand is over there. There we go. So I have my image in, and so to do my speech bubble, I will go to insert, go to shape, scroll down to where it says call out. Now remember that the solid lines are for speech and the thought bubble is for internal thoughts. And you can use any one of these. I'll just use one of the traditional shapes. And you put it and you draw it. And this yellow circle here allows you to adjust the pointer to your speaker's head. All right, so you can just drag that and adjust it accordingly. And there is my text box, my speech bubble. I'm going to change the color of it, and then I am going to add my text. So I right click, or I can double click, and I click edit text, and I put my question. So I'm putting great job on the work done today. Quick question. What is Richard Bartle famous for? All right. Now you'll realize that the question is in a clear color. So I need to change the color. And so I do that by clicking on the text field. And then when I go home, this is a bit large. So I want to make it probably 16. That works. All right. So this is my character who is going to be talking. And then there is another character that I need who will be answering. And this is where the students will respond. So I can go back to quick start. Let me just go back a little bit. Here, type. Okay, so when I click on type, I can select my female, and I'm going to use a female. So I click on female, I click on color, I select the hair, and then I select an outfit. Hoping that she is in a dress. All right, so the options aren't very many, as you can see. So I'll see if I find something that, there we go. Right? And then of course, we would have our pose. So I'm looking for a pose that doesn't take up a lot of space and one that looks forward. So this one works. And she's smiling, so that is good. So again, I will use the focus mode by cropping this image so that I have the size. And then I will create my text box. Now, you could copy the text box that is here and paste it and remove the content. All right, there you are. And then of course, because you have asked a question where they will have to give some information, you can just adjust the box and ensure that it's large enough for the content to go in. All right. And you do the same thing until you have completed your comic with your questions. So I am scrolling up and I'm going to resend. And I'm going to the young man because this is the person I used. And I'm going to select a different pose this time. So this time I am looking for a pose. Okay, so this one works. So I'm going to use this one. And again, I'm putting it in focus mode. Oops. I'm putting it in focus mode. And I'm just moving him across here. And then I'll resize. Now for this one, I want to have this young man and the young lady together. So I'll remove my middle and I'll just stretch this across. All right. And so I can have him ask a question and she answers. Again, I go to shape and I scroll down to callouts, but this time I'm going to use the round callout. just to give you an idea of how this works. All right. And I'm going to change the color and the line. And then I'll add my text. And for this, he would have answered. And then the next question would have been uh, um, based on Bartol's profiles, which are you and why do you say so? All right. Again, I have to change the color of the text, and I can probably make that a little smaller. So I'll make the text a little smaller, 18, probably make it 14. 14 should work quite all right. But if you're unsure, just do a preview. Yes, 14 is decent. And so we will scroll back up to Pixton, go to recent, and there is our young lady. And so we will look for a pose for her. And so I'm looking for a pose where she looks as if she's thinking about it. And maybe not that one. Let's see this one. Ah, oh, she smiles here. So let's use this one. She's probably using the same one. But so we are doing a focus on her as well. So we could have easily resized, but I'm doing a focus. And I am bringing her down. She is talking to him, so I should probably find one where she is turned towards him. Let's use this one. And what I'll let me delete this one. And what I'll do, I'll just flip her so that she is facing him, flip horizontal. And so I'll crop to get that focus. And then I'll bring her down and I'll resize her. Okay. And I can probably bring this to the front so that her hand is not in the way. And I would insert her text box. So I'd go to shapes, scroll down to callouts. And again, I'm just showing you that you can use different callouts. I'm using the one that has the rectangle look. And I am adjusting the pointer, making this a little bigger so that their students have enough space. Change the fill and the line. And then for the final one, I want both of them to be facing us and to be saying something. So I am going to have her waving and I'm going to resize her. For this one, I am not putting a focus on it. So I'll simply resize and then I go to the young man and see if there is one that I can use as well. So let's use this image. And then I'll put him here. I'll have to resize him as well. Right. So I can do that. And she's a little bit taller. So of course, perspective is everything. And I will put a call out in. So I can close that because I'm finished with the images. And I simply go to shapes and I scroll down. And again, I can use the round one. All right, so I'll use the round one for him. Move that here. Change the fill color and the line. And he will say something like, this is fun. Again, I'd have to change the text color and make the size a little smaller. All right, so he says, this is fun. and she is thinking. So let us do a thought bubble. And she would say something here. So again, you look for that yellow circle and move it towards your speaker. And I'm going to just put in the information, best day ever. And I will go home, make it a little smaller, and I'll change the color and the line and the text fill. So this is it. And essentially, that's how you create your comic strip using the Pixton app. You would have to ensure that you have your images, meaning your background or any sound effects that you want to have. You'd have to select those, put them in a folder, and have them at as easy access. For this particular session, we created a worksheet. But of course, if you're doing a resource, you would simply fill in the information in each of the boxes. And if your comic strip, your comic has more than, I have 5 panels here. If you wanted more, you would simply add a new slide and continue the process until you have a sheet that has several. All right. So now that I'm finished, I can do two things. I would want to save this file as a PowerPoint so that if I need to edit, I can easily go back and edit. So I'm going to click on save, and I'm going to call this one my gamer profile comic activity sheet. All right, and I am going to save it in my Pixton folder, which is on my desktop. So I go to browse and I go to my desktop, and there is my Pixton. So I save that as a PowerPoint. If I'm sharing this with my students, especially if I am giving it to them as a worksheet in my class, I would therefore save it in my face-to-face class. I would save it as a PDF, okay, or a Word or a PDF. So I would click save, okay, and I can take a look at what my file would look like. So after I have saved it, I would take a look at it just to make sure that it's fine. So I open it, I take a look at it, and this is what it would look like. It looks pretty good. And although the add-in from Pixton has fewer features, you can still use it to create your basic lesson with your students. Now, one of the things that I was asked is if you can put the voiceover. You can, but you would not be using it for as a you would not be able to share it as a PDF. Um, so you can do your PowerPoint, save it as a PowerPoint, put the add-in, the voices in and your sound effects, and have it as an interactive. I will do a lesson on that and share that, but for today's particular session, as the follow-up to the Pixton webpage, this is the basic of how the essentials, the bare minimum of how you can create your comics from scratch using the Pixton add-in in PowerPoint. So that is it from me. I did promise I would put this together for you. I do hope you make use of it, that you find it useful. And please remember, this is simply a tool. You should ensure that you have your clearly aligned plans, your clearly outlined objectives, your activities, and your content. And then you look at how you can use this particular tool to enhance the teaching and learning experience. So that's it from me. If you do decide to try it, send us an email. And if you need any kind of assistance, please let us know. Have a good one.